Hi guys, just a quick epilepsy warning. Ronica has included some footage with a lot of flashes. It'll appear at the timestamp on the screen, but don't worry, I'll remind you again just before then. And now, the intro.
No, I didn't just pick this game because it has Souls in the name and I'm a Dark Souls addict before you ask. Truth be told, I'm going through one of my Dark Souls dry spells, where the games are about as appealing to me as any public restroom at the beach. I haven't been on Elden Ring for a few days now either, despite how absorbed I was with the game at launch. Though the upside is that new games don't have to fight so hard for my attention. Today's game, Young Souls, was selected because it reached the dizzying heights of being actually quite good indeed, and I'm trying to make sure I don't come across as too negative. Wait a minute, did I do the quite good indeed thing sincerely? I usually reserve that sort of shit for when I'm talking about a game that's just okay. What is going on here? Young Souls follows the twins Tristan and Jen, who live in a nice manor with a weird old professor who adopted them rather recently. The pair are sent by the professor into town to sell a box of his old crap, but when they return home they discover he is gone. The door is ajar, the manor is a mess, and the one super secret door that the pair were told to keep away from at all costs is open. It doesn't take long for the pair to wind up underground and face to face with goblins, or rather gobbins as they call themselves. They have kidnapped the professor man and the twins make it their mission to rescue him, discovering as they go the goblin plans to assault the surface and claim the world as their own. The game is a side-scroller beat-em-up, not dissimilar to...
Gonna finish that, or just stand staring into space?
I'm gonna go with option B.
Or do you just want to admit that you have no frame of reference for this type of game because you spent the late 90s and early 2000s addicted to Mario?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, viewer. This is a genre that has completely passed me by, and I have no frame of reference for comparison's sake. So I cannot tell you how it fares when compared to things like Streets of Rage. That's one, right? Yeah, that feels like one. The upside, though, is it means I have no prior expectations for a game of this type, so I can go in really fresh. Young Souls controls rather nicely, with very few noticeable controller delays or errors. The block button seemed to mistake me hammering it for a casual suggestion from time to time, but other than that I had no issues. The combat does feel quite meaty and impactful, a lot of the attacks send enemies flying, and the enemy's own attacks can do the same to you. In fact, I don't think a single attack from any weapon in the game lacked a sense of weight. It can be difficult to explain this properly, but how things feel in a game is really important. Just pressing a button and watching an animation crack off and watching the enemy's health bar get smaller isn't enough. I need to see the enemy buckle as my weapon drives into them. I need to hear the crunching sound and the strained grunts my character makes as they swing a hammer through a goblin's skull. Though weirdly, I don't need it to be gory, I just need to feel like my character is holding something more deadly than a paper towel roll with a splinter sticking out of it, you know? Young Souls nails its combat feel very well, but the combat is only a part of the game. The game also has a strong focus on its narrative. As we explore and fight our way through the dungeons, we meet more of the goblins' big dogs, the big gobs if you will. Yes, I am way too proud of that. We learn about the history between goblins and humans. We see the interactions between characters which, in spite of limited animation, do a great job of character and world building for us. I am not too proud to admit that there were a couple of moments in the story that kinda got to me. One was after you beat a boss named Tekka. I'm gonna put it on screen in another one of those attempts to make myself look stupid. She is sort of an engineering whiz, and the goblins have a lot riding on her knowledge and abilities. She comes across as argumentative to her colleagues, but we learn that she's just stressed and overworked. The Goblin King, who sadly doesn't look like David Bowie, I know, what a letdown, worst game ever, even comments and expresses his concern for her well-being. Once we fight and kill her in a boss fight, we're treated to this cutscene where the rest of the top gobs, yes I'm sticking with it, are gathered and they learn of the demise and they take this news really hard. It made me choke up a little, I even went "aww" quite audibly in a way that makes me really glad I live alone. The later bit that got to me I won't spoil because it's something of a major plot point. I will just say that it was really sad and it got me really feeling for the protagonists. Back on the topic of gameplay, the game has some RPG elements, between a level up system and the game throwing new gear at you all the time for you to try out, so that you can keep what you like and flog the rest of vendors.
Wait, why didn't you flog it then?
Because it might be useful later.
The classic gamer argument, you let me know when later happens.
Quiet you, I could end you with a thought. Level wise, you gain experience from kills, as is the standard, but your new level up only takes effect after you go home and go to bed. I'm not really for this system, but I'm not against it either. And when you're in bed you have a chance to acquire a gym pass. Somehow. I'm not really sure how that one works.
Are you telling me you've never woken up to find a gym pass under your pillow?
Can't say that I have, no.
Oh. Should Should I be concerned that I did?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Going to the gym allows you to buff one of your stats for each sibling, either your strength, your health, or your stamina. Yep, you heard me say stamina, there's a stamina bar in this game. Thank macaroni and cheese, this is only used for dodging attacks, so you can swing your weapon more than 3 times in a row before needing to go into hibernation for 3 weeks. The combat isn't hampered by much in general. The slight delay of blocking aside, there are a few things that bug me about the combat system, but as it's such a short list, let's go through it anyway. I don't like how long it takes items to recharge. I swear, after you use a healing item, it takes a good 2 minutes before you can use it again. And I don't like how some attacks, like the bow or the bomb, automatically target the enemy nearest to you. The amount of times I've nearly blown myself up is ridiculous. And the amount of times I've actually blown myself up is even worse. Still, at least it's fun to play, and being able to swap between siblings whenever you please meant that each of them could have a separate loadout. I tended to keep one with a 2-handed hard-hitting weapon, and the other with a faster weapon stroke shield combo. This got me through a lot of the game. There is a parry system. If you block at just the right time, you can stagger some enemies and you get a mana reward. Mana which you can use to execute a weapon special attack. The issue is, again, the block button seems to have some response issues. I tried customizing the control in the menu, but changing the button didn't seem to really help. It didn't seem to matter what button it was, the shield would always have a weird delay to it. Or just not work at all. I'm also going to mention now, in case I forgot to write it down later, when I customized the controls in the menu, it had like a 50% chance of remembering that I did this, so that the next time I loaded up the game, I'd have the same controls. My timing is already shit, I don't need you making it worse, game. It's obvious when a goblin is about to attack, there's this pink hue around him which gives it away. But as I've admitted in the past, my timing couldn't be worse if I was hopped up on elephant tranquilizers. Though knowing me, that would somehow be an improvement. However, the developers knew this about some gamers. They knew that their reaction times were a little bit slower than others and still wanted people to be able to play their game. And this brings me to my favourite feature of the game, the accessibility options. I played the game on the recommended challenging mode, and I was having trouble, naturally. I then saw when I opened the menu by accident, I open the menu by accident a lot in games, it's just something I do, that there was a section in the options menu marked accessibility. It lets you tweak all kinds of things, like the enemy's attack speed, or the player's health, or your damage output, and it does so without you having to knock down to a lower difficulty setting in general. I made the goblins a bit slower, I gave my characters a bit more health. I still found the game challenging after I made these changes, but I felt more capable of beating said challenges. I think more games would benefit from this, granting players more freedom to approach the game as they need.
Aren't you worried about the hardcore gamer crowd that believe that such things are essentially sacrilege? You know, the really whiny gamers who can't handle the idea that someone with less skill than them can also play their game, just on an easier, more accessible setting.
Nah, they're probably still off on the Elden Ring forums arguing about difficulty settings there. I think I'm okay for now. Young Souls is a pretty good game, though there are some issues that I simply cannot ignore. Let's start with a small yet deliberate design choice. There are 2 currencies, human dollars and goblin gold, but guess which one is exclusively required for buying and upgrading weapons and armour? Yep, it's the gold. Guess what the pawn shop in the human world gives you when you sell them anything? Not gold, correct. And guess what human currency is used for? Cloves. You didn't guess that one, but you know, I can give you that one. I can give you 2 out of 3. You can buy clothes that do nothing aside look kinda neat, I suppose, but my twins were clad in armour 99% of the time, so what was the point?
Wait, for real? That's all this game lets you spend human money on? But there are a few shops in town. You can't spend human money on other things. Anywhere. Like at the gym to get more parties, or at the sneaker shop.
Nope. The gym tokens are only given away at night when you sleep, again, still not sure how that one works. And the sneakers offer you perks like increased speed or finding extra items, so guess what? You gotta use gold to get them. What bugs me is that the mayor of this town, who is helping us on our quest to defeat the goblins, will occasionally give us a box of junk to sell, as it's supposed to help us with money. But I couldn't sell it to any of the goblins, I could only sell it to the pawn shop. I took it underground, went to the goblin marketplace, which fills up with rebel vendors you rescue from the king, but none of them seemed to want any of it, so it was pointless. I usually love dress up, but for some reason I kinda like it when I've spent money I should have been spending on something else to dress up. Kinda just makes the outfit feel a little bit more special, you know? There's one section in the game where you need to fight ghosts with cursed weapons, but the catch is the cursed weapons limit your HP to 1, so basically one hit will kill you if you don't block it. At least the ghosts are quite weak, quite slow, and the boss isn't much of a struggle. Since this mechanic of ghost hunting never comes up again, I can only assume that the devs realised it was a crap idea and decided not to reuse it, thank God for that. And that's about it for the issues that are the result of deliberate design decisions. Let's look at some more mechanical problems. The blacksmith vendor had a nasty habit of vanishing. I'd fast travel to the goblin marketplace and he'd be there as the game loaded in, but once we were given control he would just disappear. And I could only get him to respawn by travelling away and walking back manually. The first session I had with the game, it crashed behind a loading screen. Sometimes objects will stay on screen even after you've collected them. At one stage, one of the twins' equipment menus just wouldn't load, and I found it really hard to dress Jen up in nice clothes because the game kept thinking I was trying to dress up my brother. Because there can't just be one menu for the 2 of them. Nope, gotta be 2 menu layouts for 2 peoples apparently. But easily the worst issue I had was this.
Right, this is that Sieger bit. jump to the new timestamp where I will summarise what they said for you if you're prone to epileptic episodes. We'll give you a few seconds of Elden Ring B-roll to find that time.
I went to equip the twins with some new gear at one point, and the menu did this to me. I couldn't exit out of the menu or anything like that. I had to close the game and reload it just to get it to stop doing that. It was insane and it gave me a bit of a headache.
There we go, bit is over. To summarise their point, the screen flashed a lot when the menu was open at one point and couldn't be closed without exiting the game.
I was concerned when I started seeing such glaring issues and was worried that the game would throw more at me the more I played. Thankfully, most of these occurred in the early game, though in hindsight I can see why that itself is a problem. It doesn't give off the best first impression, does it, when your game crashes on your first session with it? I think that the game needs some patching, but I will praise it for being otherwise well put together. It's hard to recommend a game with such noticeable technical issues, but I will do so nonetheless. Young Souls at its core is a fantastic and challenging video game. I enjoyed the story, the character interactions, the combat was mostly well put together and the levels were quite generous with their checkpoints. That worked well for someone like me who is good at video games in the same way that a flat earther is good at using well-rounded arguments. Well-rounded, get it? I know I'm not funny, you don't have to tell me. Overall, I enjoyed my time with the game. I got about 10 hours out of it, which I think is a good length. And if I'm being honest, I'd probably play it again. It's one of those games I love, made by a studio with a passion and a vision in mind. Young Souls might need a bit of fixing here and there, but get past that, it's a fun and engaging experience. It can also be played in local co-op, which is nice.
Huh, that is neat. Lots of games have been ditching the local multiplayer, so it is lovely to see a game keeping with it. How did it pan out? I assume with 2 players things would get hectic, but did they manage to account for this and you forgot to try the co-op?
Yup.